centuries. The Teutonic Order. The next people to attempt to conquer the area were the Russians. Although they did not succeed, the 200 years spent trying to settle in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia saw the establishment of the Orthodox religion in the area. At that time, the Baltic peoples were made up of two major tribes, the Žemaitija in the west and the Aukštaitija in the east and southeast. Then a number of cities in this region, such as Riga and Tallinn, joined the Hanseatic League, a politically powerful union of German, Dutch, English, and Scandinavian trading towns. At around the same time, two German military orders, the Livonian Brothers of the Sword and the Teutonic Knights, moved into the region, and eventually they joined together. Initially, they set up a brotherhood of knights and priests. The Teutonic Order took care of the wounded and sick during the Christian Crusades to the Holy Land. However, by the end of the 12th century, it had been converted into a genuine order of knights with a clear-cut goal: the conversion of Prussian and Baltic pagans and the conquest of their territories. In the middle of the 13th century, the leader of the Aukštaitija, King Mindaugas, united all the Lithuanian tribes so they could defend themselves against the German knights. To prevent the knights from gaining too much influence, he had himself baptized and converted to Christianity, but this was just for show. In reality, he and his people remained pagans. During this period, the Teutonic Knights suffered a series of defeats against the Russians and Lithuanians, and they slowly retreated. By 1309, they had withdrawn and set up their headquarters at Malbork in Poland. Although skirmishes between the Baltic and Polish peoples and the Knights continued for several years. Under Mindaugas' successor, Ketamine, Lithuania became an important European power with a multinational and multicultural society. Parts of Russia and present-day Latvia were absorbed into the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Through the marriages of Lithuanian princes with Polish princesses, the two countries formed a close relationship, and in 1385 they created an official union. Jogaila of Lithuania was appointed head of this new Commonwealth, on the condition that he converted his people to Christianity. Lithuania was the last European country to renounce paganism and adopt the Christian faith. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. After Jogaila's death, the Lithuanian rulers increasingly lost their power to Poland. In 1569, Poland and Lithuania became one state, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Krakow in Poland was made its capital. From this time onwards, the upper classes began to speak Polish, and Polish culture was adopted by many people of Lithuanian descent. Lithuanian peasants suffered the most, as they became serfs working on land belonging to the wealthy Polish nobility. In the neighboring Baltic states, Estonia and Latvia, the Swedes gained control. Russia, aiming to expand its territories westward, fought against the Swedes for control of the Baltic countries. During the Great Northern War, Sweden lost Estonia and Latvia to Russia. In 1795, Polish-Lithuanian independence ended. Prussia captured the western part of Lithuania, and the remaining lands came under the rule of the Russian Tsar. The French Emperor Napoleon also paid a visit to the region in 1812 while retreating from an unsuccessful attack on Moscow. He took leave of his army in Vilnius to return to France. Throughout the 19th century, the Polish army made several attempts to free Lithuania from Russian rule, notably in 1830 and 1863. However, they were defeated by the Russians. The Russians left their mark on Lithuanian society. They wanted to banish all Polish influences. The Roman Catholic Church was suppressed, the Latin alphabet was banned, and only books printed in the Cyrillic alphabet were allowed. In the seaport of Memel, which was Prussian at the time, Lithuanian books were smuggled into the country, allowing the people to at least retain a small part of their own history and culture. The Lithuanian people staged frequent uprisings against their Russian overlords. National consciousness. Despite foreign rule, the three Baltic countries began to regain their national consciousness in the second half of the 19th century. Poetry was written in their own languages, and an interest in national history arose. By the time the First World War broke out in 1914, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia had all determined to fight for the right to be independent states. second television channel was only launched in 2003. Currently, there are 3 commercial stations and several more that can be received through cable. Festivals. The first European Song Festival took place in Zurich, Switzerland in 1843. 2 years later, a similar event was organized in Würzburg, Germany. However, when Adolf Hitler's National Socialist Party gained power in 1933, the festivals were stopped. In the Baltic countries, which were under strong German influence, song festivals were also organized, first in Estonia in 1869 and 4 years later in Latvia. The first Lithuanian Song Festival did not take place until after the First World War, when Lithuania gained independence for the first time. The festival was held in Kaunas from August 23rd to 25th, 1924. Since then, the event has become a tradition. Every 4 years, the Song Festival is held in Vilnius. A large stage is ranged in Vilnius Park, which accommodates thousands of people. Nearly 30,000 singers, musicians, and dancers take part in the festival, groups, orchestras, and choirs, as well as modern and classical music and traditional songs are also performed. The festival opens with a folklore day. People from various regions gathered in this park, dressed in traditional Lithuanian costumes. They practice old trade, display the traditional crafts made in their village or region, and offer customary drinks and dishes. Dancers from different regions perform traditional dances and sing their old songs. Someone tell me how to pronounce that, sir. I'm not even gonna try. In Kanu Park, a large song and dance feast takes place in the evenings. Around 30,000 people attend the festivities. The highlight of this festival is Dancing Day in Vilnius Park. On the large stage, 400 choirs group together. These include youth choirs, children's choirs, male voice choirs, female voice choirs, and mixed choirs. They perform songs from old and contemporary composers. The concert lasts for about 4 hours and concludes with grand harmonized singing by the choirs and audience. This usually goes on for a number of hours. Government. Lithuania is a parliamentary democracy. It is made up of 10 counties, each with an administrative capital. The counties are subdivided into 44 districts. The Lithuanian parliament is called the Seimas. Seimas. I knew at one point. Oh well. It has 141 members, which are elected by a 4-year term. Not all members are elected directly by the population. 70 members are elected in a nationwide vote, and 71 members are elected indirectly in constituencies. Anyone over the age of 18 can vote in the elections. Members of parliament have to be at least 25 years old. The Lithuanian constitution was adopted in October 1992. The Social Democratic Coalition is the largest party with 51 seats. The New Union holds 25 seats. The Liberal Union holds 24 seats. The Liberal Democrats hold 13 seats. The Homeland Union holds 9 seats. The Farmers' Party and the New Democracy Party hold 8 seats. There are also several smaller parties. The cabinet consists of 13 ministers under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister. Education. Education in Lithuania is compulsory between the ages of 6 and 16, although pupils can leave school when they have completed primary and basic secondary education. Many choose to continue their studies at senior secondary schools and then at universities. Primary education lasts for 4 years. It is followed by basic secondary education, which takes place at 2 different institutions, basic school and secondary school. Basic secondary education lasts for 6 years. If they choose to, pupils can then go on to senior secondary or vocational secondary schools. Senior secondary education. Senior secondary education takes place at a secondary school or a gymnasium. Lithuanian gymnasiums specialize in the humanities, like classical and or contemporary languages and social sciences. Practical arts like natural sciences, technology and economics, and the fine arts like art and music. The gymnasium diploma allows access to Vilnius University, which is based on the American model of higher education, the University of Medicine, the University of Technology, the University of Agriculture, and the Veterinary Academy. Other universities can be found in Klaipėda and Šiauliai. Cuisine. Lithuania does not have an extensive cuisine of its own, but there are a few traditional dishes. Food is related to the climate. Carrots, potatoes, and cabbages are all staple foods because they grow well in the Lithuanian climate. These ingredients are turned into delicious meals. Although the dishes can be rather heavy and quite rich, this is suitable for the country, which has long cold winters during which hearty food is needed. Other agricultural products are sugar beets, corn, oats, and wheat, all of which are used in many recipes. Zeppelin, is a Lithuanian specialty. The word means zeppelin, and the dish consists of a zeppelin-shaped parcel about 8 inches long. It is made from mashed potatoes mixed with a little flour to bind it together, with a filling of meat, bacon, and mushrooms. Zeppelini are cooked in water and are usually I'm not sure, someone tell me, are cooked in water and are usually served with a sauce made from onions, butter, sour cream, and bacon pieces. I really want to eat this. It sounds so good. Another popular dish is potato cakes. They are made from shredded potatoes mixed with flour and filled with a little meat. These small thick cakes are served with sour cream. Fresh fish is only found served along the coastal region. Inland fish is smoked and pickled in vinegar with onions and sometimes cream. This way the fish can be kept for a long time. In the past, when transportation was not as good as it is today, the fish would have spoiled on its journey inland to the restaurants and shops. Ew, what is this picture? Oh, they're just chopped up fish. Okay, I was just making sure. There we go. Okay. Popular dishes. Sauerkraut, a dish made from pickled white cabbage, is very popular in Lithuania and is served as an accompaniment to many meals. It is often combined with pork or bacon and potatoes. Peas with bacon or schnitzel are two favorite meals. Pork is the most common meat eaten in the country, although game meats such as hare, rabbit, and deer are also widely hunted and eaten in autumn and winter. A lot of this is sold to restaurants where it is popular with both locals and tourists when cooked in traditional ways. Lithuanians are fond of fresh produce, and they even gather food such as mushrooms and berries themselves. This is something of a tradition, and whole families gather in the late summer and early autumn to take trips to the woodland areas, where these can be found in abundance. September is the best time to gather mushrooms, and there are many different types in Lithuania. At this time of year, there are hundreds of stands by the side of the road selling freshly picked mushrooms. I'm getting hungry. Gathering summer fruits is also a popular pastime in the summer. These include wild strawberries, blackberries, and cowberries, only found in northern Europe, America, and Asia. These berries are eaten fresh or made into jams, which last all year round, for sandwiches or as a pancake filling. People sell these pots of homemade jams in the markets and on streets. Transportation. In general, the roads in Lithuania are well maintained. Although many of them are quite narrow, they are kept in good condition and signs are clear. Large 4-lane highways have recently been constructed between Vilnius and Klaipėda and Benešvis and Vilnius. The speed limit on these is 68 miles per hour. Railways. There are nearly 1,250 miles of railways in Lithuania. International trains run between the Baltic capitals. The service runs once a day. There are train connections to most cities, but the diesel and electric trains are not always very fast. First, second, and third class tickets are available, and sometimes fourth class. First class coaches are only available on international trains. Buses. Buses are also available in the cities, but they are infrequent and can be slow. On shorter routes, small minibuses are used, which can hold around 15 passengers. These stop on request. In Vilnius and Kaunas, trolley buses are available and are the best way to travel. Trams are not common in Lithuania, and there are no subways Right in the middle of the park lies the oldest wooded marshland in Lithuania. More than 150 different species of birds live here. There's an airplane, sorry. Trakai National Park is located near Vilnius. Centuries ago, Trakai was the capital of Lithuania until 1323. Grand Duke Ketamine is transferred to the capital to Vilnius. The old city has a rich history and is located in a beautiful scenic area on a long and narrow peninsula where three lakes meet. Lake Galva, Lake Totoritskis, and Lake Lukos. There are still many old wooden houses. The castle is located at the near end of the peninsula and it can be reached by way of wooden bridge. Smita National Park is the most recently established. The area consists of woodlands, wetlands, and a large lake. Curonian